What's up, dummies? Today we're about to react to the worst jail deaths ever. Apparently this guy died from a boiling hot shower while he was in jail. We're gonna find out some crazy deaths that happen when people were in jail, in prison. I've never been, so this is gonna be pretty interesting. Let's go. What did he just say?
Ley a la Maconde.
Ley a la Maconde. Okay, hopefully this video is not in Spanish because I don't know what the hell that means, but let's go.
Imagine being held down in a police station while someone pushes a tube through your nose and into your stomach. Then a burning liquid is poured inside you to make you—
Wait, what? This happens in jail? They put a tube up your nose and up your stomach? Where does it go? How does it get into your stomach? Do they put it in from the— Oh!
vomit. This is what happened to Ley a la Maconde.
What? This guy let them do that? I would have been like, hell no.
An asylum seeker from Sierra Leone who was living in Germany. In December 2004, police arrested him because they suspected he was selling drugs. They thought he had swallowed small packets of cocaine to hide them, and instead of waiting for the drugs to pass out of his body naturally, the police called a doctor to force him to vomit. The doctor used a strong medicine, which makes people throw up. To give it to him, they pushed a long tube down his nose. Conde fought against the procedure and kept swallowing his vomit. Because of this, liquid went into his lungs. And even though this was very dangerous, the procedure was repeated several times. After a while, foam started to come out of his mouth and nose. He collapsed, and paramedics had to bring him back to life before taking him to the hospital, but he never woke up again.
Bro, what the? So they were trying to get some drugs out of his system.
Conde went into a coma, and about 10 days later, he died. The doctor said the official cause of death was cerebral hypoxia, which means that his brain was badly damaged because it did not get enough oxygen. He had basically drowned after breathing in his own vomit.
He drowned in his own vomit. Rest in peace to that guy. We're gonna find out what else happened.
Abdul Wali was a 28-year-old Afghan farmer who went to a U.S. base.
28? He's 28? What the hell has he been eating? McDonald's? Jesus Christ, he looks like he's 86.
After the local governor advised him to surrender. He wanted to show that he had nothing to do with a rocket attack on that base and denied all involvement. However, instead of clearing his name, he was—
What? Wait, they got two snipers aimed right at his head like it's GTA 6.
Tortured to death while in custody. For 3 days, he was held as a prisoner, and a CIA contractor called David Pissarro took charge of questioning him. Soldiers later testified that Pissarro gave strict orders. Wali was not allowed to sleep. His food and water were really limited, and he was beaten over 2 nights. Witnesses said that he kicked him in the groin with his heavy combat boots so hard that Wali's body lifted off the ground. He slammed him onto the floor, hit his arms and legs with a heavy Maglite flashlight, and even shoved the flashlight into his stomach.
Where did he shove the flashlight into?
At some point, the beating broke Wali's pelvis. This left him unable to urinate, which caused him even more terrible pain.
Oh my gosh, he couldn't even go to the bathroom?
The second night, Wali was no longer pleading for mercy. He was begging to be killed. Soldiers remember him moaning, "I'm dying." And on the 4th day, he did die. At first, the death was reported as a heart attack.
Bro, yeah, right, bro. Hopefully these guys, because look, they showed the guy who was torturing him or whatever. This was like a CIA contractor or whatever. They were trying to torture him to get him to admit that he did like a missile strike, but I don't think he did a missile strike because he was just a farmer. That's what he said. But let's see if this guy got caught. The guy who was
did die
torturing
the real
him.
Cause. The death was reported as a heart attack.
Yeah,
but later evidence showed that the beatings were the real cause. Pissarro became the first and only person linked to the CIA ever convicted for abuse after 9/11. At first, prosecutors charged him with several serious crimes that could have meant decades in prison.
Bro, how does he even read this paper, bro? That does not say decades in prison, bro.
But in the end, he was found guilty of 1 count of assault, causing serious injury.
Maybe that's cursive, bro. I never learned how to read cursive, so maybe that's cursive. That I don't even know.
But in the end, he was found guilty of 1 count of assault, causing serious injury, and 3 counts of simple assault.
That's
he received a sentence of just 8 years and 4 months, which was later reduced to 6 years and 8 months.
What?
A judge even told him that if an autopsy had been done, he might have been charged with murder. Darren Rainey. Darren Rainey's last hours were spent locked in a prison shower that was turned into a torture chamber.
Really? A shower turned into a chamber? I think this might be from the thumbnail. You remember when somebody was in a boiling hot shower? Dude, what if they turned all the shower's temperature up in the freaking prison?
The 50-year-old, who suffered from schizophrenia, was being held at Dade Correctional Institution in Florida and was supposed to serve a short 2-year sentence for cocaine possession. One night, after he smeared feces in his cell, guards took him to a special—
Wait, what? This dude was spreading his poop in his cell? I mean, I'm not gonna say he deserved to be tortured, but bro, what?
Shower in the prison's psychiatric ward. The pipes had been changed so that prisoners inside had no control over the water temperature. What happened next was horrific. The water blasting down on Rainey reached as high as 160 degrees Fahrenheit. He begged to be let out, but he was trapped inside for almost 2 hours.
Oh, he's done.
When guards finally opened the door, he was lying on his back, dead. His body was covered in patches of burned skin, with second and third degree burns over more than 30% of it. Paramedics later said his skin peeled away at the touch. Photos from the scene even showed bruises on his hands, likely from him pounding on the shower door as he tried to escape. Even with these shocking details, accountability was slow. For 2 years, officials gave no clear explanation for his death, and 2 of the officers on duty were even promoted. Other prisoners later revealed that Rainey was not the first to suffer this punishment. At least 8 others in the psychiatric unit had been forced into the same shower. Only after the Miami Herald exposed the case and human rights groups demanded answers did an investigation begin. The prison's warden was fired, but no one faced criminal charges.
Bro, what? Nobody got charged with anything? Bro, they sent him into a boiling hot shower.
In 2016, the medical examiner called Rainey's death accidental, blaming a mix of confinement, his health problems, and his mental illness.
Bro, bro, I have no health problems and no mental illness, and I never will. But bro, look, if they put me in that 160-degree shower, I'm dying too.
While ignoring the obvious fact that he had been trapped under boiling water. His family sued, and at least they eventually received a $4.5 million settlement.
But like, bro, what is $4.5 million going to do? It's not going to bring your family member back.
Dilawar was a young Afghan taxi driver who happened to pick up the wrong passengers at the wrong time. He was driving 3 men home when an Afghan militia stopped his car at a checkpoint near a U.S. base that had been attacked earlier that same.
So this guy was like an Uber driver, a taxi driver. He was just taking these 3 guys on a trip, and then he pulled up to this base.
Same day. Inside the car, they found a broken walkie-talkie and an electrical stabilizer. Without real evidence, they handed Dilawar and his passengers over to American soldiers. This turned out to be the end for him. At the Bagram Detention Center, Dilawar was tortured. Guards chained his wrists to the ceiling of his cell for long periods, leaving him hanging until his shoulders came out of their sockets. He was denied sleep, forced to wear a hood, shoved into walls.
See, bro, that might be the worst thing, denying somebody sleep. Now, a lot of people might say, dude, that's not as bad as being shoved into a wall or hanging from your arms, you know? Your shoulders are gonna hurt so badly. If you just sit here, like the rest of this video, I want you to try to keep your arms up. If you keep your arms up for like 1 minute, it starts to burn. So imagine he was doing this for hours. But honestly, I think the worst part of this torture was him not being able to sleep. Like as you're about to fall asleep, they wake you up. It's like so annoying, bro. Sleep is so important. I think I just slept 12 hours today.
Pulled by his beard and kicked in the groin. Soldiers stomped on his bare feet and slammed his chest against tables. Worst of all, his legs were beaten again and again with what the soldiers called peroneal strikes. These were powerful blows just above the knee, designed to cause intense pain. Dilawar endured more than 100 of them, and by the time he died, his legs were so destroyed that even if he had survived, doctors said they would have had to cut them off. They described them as pulpified. On the day of his death, Dilawar had already spent most of 4 days chained to the ceiling. When guards tried to make him kneel, his legs would not bend anymore because of the repeated beatings. He was told he would see a doctor once questioning was finished, but instead, he was dragged back to his cell and hung up again. Hours later, when a medic finally checked on him, he had already passed away. What made it even more tragic was that U.S. interrogators later admitted many of them believed Dilawar was innocent. His passengers were later sent to Guantanamo and eventually released years later.
Wow, so this guy was just a taxi driver.
With letters saying they were not a threat at all. The truth about Dilawar's death could not stay hidden. A leaked death certificate proved he had been killed by abuse, not by illness as the military first claimed. His story later became the center of the Academy Award-winning documentary Taxi to the Dark Side.
Wow, they made a... Wow. It says in 2002, a young cab driver picked up a few passengers near his house, and he never returned. Wow, they made a freaking movie about it. I gotta watch this because I feel bad for this guy. This guy is just a random taxi driver. He picked up some people and he ended up being tortured.
Taxi to the Dark Side, which revealed the horrors that took place inside Bagram. Some soldiers were investigated, but the punishments were light. Short jail terms, rank reductions, and official letters of reprimand. No one was ever convicted of murder, and Dilawar never got to come back home to his wife and baby daughter.
Oh my God, that's annoying, bro. Wow. Okay, let's keep listening. This is really interesting.
He was only 16 years old when his
Wow, 16 years old. These keep getting crazier.
body finally gave out. Nick was sent to the Arizona Boys Ranch, a privately run boot camp for troubled youth, hoping he could earn school credits and turn his life around.
Okay, this might be really weird because it's like sometimes these boot camps for kids are like good, but sometimes they like torture these kids, bro. They like just make them do crazy things. I watched a movie about this one like boot camp that people sent their kids to, and it was horrible.
His health was already fragile when he arrived. He had asthma, and the higher elevation in Arizona made breathing harder. Soon he began showing clear signs of being sick. Nausea, diarrhea,
and I bet they
fevers
didn't
over
care.
100 degrees, spasms, etc. His
I bet
pulse
they didn't
was
care.
racing. He lost weight quickly, and even his body gave off what staff described as a moldy odor. However, instead of giving him proper care, staff brushed him off, calling him a faker and a baby. Even his prescribed inhalers could not be used unless staff gave permission. As Nick grew sicker,
they weren't giving him permission to use his inhaler? Come on.
The treatment from the staff only got worse. They forced him to keep doing harsh physical exercises, and if he faltered, they shoved or punched him. When he fainted, they threw water on him to force him up again. Often, he wasn't allowed to use the bathroom, so he lost control of his bladder and bowels.
Wow.
He soiled himself so often that his mattress was moved into the bathroom, and he was made to sleep there in his own filth. Staff forced him to carry his stained clothes in a trash can and do push-ups over it. At mealtimes, he had to sit on a toilet while eating, mocked in front of others. Staff even spread rumors to the other boys that he had AIDS. Nick tried to reach out for help. In his final phone call to his family, his grandmother remembered how he struggled to speak, coughed nonstop, and said, "Wanna die, wanna be with Dad. Too hard." Then, during yet another round of physical drills, Nick fainted several times, and instead of helping him, staff joked that he deserved an Academy Award for pretending. They forced him into push-ups, slammed him against a wall, and even made him act like an ambulance siren, while another boy pushed him in a wheelbarrow. By the afternoon, his body couldn't take it anymore, and he collapsed for the last time. When staff ordered him to get up, his final word was simply, "No," and 2 hours later, he was pronounced dead. Investigators later counted 32 different acts of abuse.
Okay, they better all go to jail, bro. They better shut down the camp.
Involving 17 staff members. The Los Angeles Times uncovered other reports of children at the ranch being burned, beaten, or seriously injured. Still, most of the staff escaped real punishment because of legal technicalities. Sednaya prison.
What? So there's no ending to that story, bro? This kid just died.
Sednaya prison, just north of Damascus, became
Oh my God, a prison in Damascus, Syria. Yeah, this is gonna be some crazy stuff.
known by the name, the Human Slaughterhouse.
Okay, they named this prison the Human Slaughterhouse. What?
For decades, and especially during the Syrian civil war, it was one of the most feared prisons in the world. Former inmates said Sednaya wasn't designed to hold people, but to break them. New arrivals were greeted with what guards called a welcome party. This meant hours of beatings with pipes, cables, and tank belts. Prisoners were blindfolded, dragged across the floor, kicked until they passed out, and left bleeding in piles. Survivors say they could identify guards just by the sound of their footsteps or the crack of their whips in the darkness. Detainees were hung by their wrists in painful positions, shocked with electricity, burned, and sometimes forced to rape each other. Guards used hinged boards called flying carpets to bend people backwards until their joints tore apart. Food was sometimes mixed with blood, and water was tainted with urine.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard. Food mixed with blood. Now, I've eaten blood before. Like cow's blood, I've had that before. But dude, putting blood on like kiwis, bananas, bread, I thought that was stupid. But then he said
blood, and water was tainted with urine.
They were putting pee in the water. Oh,
prisoners reported
God.
being forced to choose between saving their own life or killing a friend or relative. One Syrian lawyer later estimated that 3 out of every 4 prisoners who entered Sednaya did not come out alive.
No way. So so if 4 people went in, he just said this, but I'm just going to explain it again. If 4 people went into prison, 3 of them will be dead. What? So if there was like 400 of them, 300 would be dead. If there was 4,000 prisoners, 3,000 would be dead.
Straight up secret executions were performed there as well. Amnesty International documented how groups of up to 50 people at a time were taken before a military field court. These so-called trials lasted only minutes, sometimes just seconds. The detainees were then led to underground chambers and hanged. Between 2011 and 2015 alone, Amnesty estimated that between 5,000 and 13,000 people were executed.
Oh my gosh. What were these people even in the prison for? Like if they were like hurting little kids, then maybe, I wouldn't even say that's, because you cannot justify killing something or someone. I think that's like the highest order of what the hell. But bro, 5,000 or 13,000? Oh.
Their bodies were carried away in trucks, sometimes stored in salt rooms, where rock salt was used to preserve them until they could be buried or hidden.
Wow.
In 2017, satellite photos and witness accounts led the U.S. State Department to accuse the Syrian government of building a crematorium at Sednaya to get rid of bodies and cover up evidence of mass killings.
Wow.
Prisoners freed during the collapse of Assad's regime in December 2024 recalled underground cells where men were kept in total darkness, surviving with bottles of urine for waste and thin, soaked blankets for warmth.
Bro, what?
Many had forgotten their own names after years of trauma.
Yeah, I'm never going to prison, bro.